you who are watching for the first time, my name is Fiona and I'm mum to 2 little kitties, and I vlog about parenting and pregnancy and birth and yoga. So today I'm going to talk about breastfeeding, seeing as it's World Breastfeeding Week. And I'm just going to give you a little bit about my breastfeeding journey with my 2 children. And then I'm going to give my top 10 tips that I would give to a mom who is about to embark on her breastfeeding journey. I'm just going to get stuck right in. I am one of a very lucky few babies in Ireland during the 1980s, as I was breastfed by my mum for 2.5 years, which is pretty amazing. So I guess that's where my breastfeeding journey began, because having that background and that kind of in my family made it, I suppose, normal for me to breastfeed. And so for that reason, I think that was a huge factor in my successful breastfeeding journey. So I have 2 children. My daughter is 5, and when I was 5 months pregnant with her, I went to my first breastfeeding support group, and that for me was a huge factor in my success at breastfeeding her, because even though I had a really positive birth experience and I had a lot of support at home around me during the birth and after the birth especially, I still had difficulties and cracked nipples, and I had, different issues that I overcame, little obstacles that I overcame, because breastfeeding is not always easy. In fact, often there are obstacles to overcome, and I suppose that's why it's really, really important to have support, and the right support, and to know where to get it. So my daughter fed for 2.5 years. She weaned during my pregnancy with my son. It took about 5 months, the full weaning process, and it worked out really well. It wasn't easy, but it worked out well, and she didn't self-wean. It was with some gentle encouragement, but I was really happy with the whole journey, and how that I was in a good place and she was in a good place. So it was for me very successful. Then with my son, so I encountered different issues and different obstacles. Like, he was tongue-tied, quite colicky, so very different breastfeeding experience. But again, I had the support around me, and I was very lucky that I knew where to go to get that support. And he is still breastfeeding now, and he's just over 2.5 years. So my kind of top 10 tips for a mom who wants to breastfeed would be: number 1, support. Now, this is the most important thing, in my opinion, that you can do for yourself if you are pregnant at the moment and want to breastfeed your baby, is to go to a breastfeeding support meeting. Now, a support meeting kind of sounds like, everyone's needy and has problems. You don't have to. Like, I used to go to meetings just to kind of meet people and get out of the house and have, a coffee and some cake, but when you're pregnant, it's really nice to meet and to see moms who are breastfeeding their babies, because it's not something you see all the time around us, unfortunately. And to hear what people are saying, and if you have any questions, ask. And sometimes just being around and watching, the babies, the toddlers, or whoever, just interacting and being with their moms and breastfeeding, it's really positive. So that's my, top tip, is just the support. To get to a support group when you're pregnant, and don't wait till the end of the pregnancy. Go in the middle and go to as many groups, or go to as many meetups as you can, because the more you go, the more you'll learn, and the more you'll become comfortable with that group. And then when you have your baby, it'll be just so easy to go into that group, or to have the numbers of the volunteers who will give you up-to-date information and will really, really help on your journey. So my tip number 2 is also about support, and it's to seek that support early on when your baby is born. So don't wait and don't think, I'll just give it another few days and see how it is. No, if something doesn't feel right, it shouldn't hurt. So if it hurts, seek that support. So what you do is, while you're pregnant and you're going to those meetups, get the numbers of the breastfeeding counselors or leaders, and also actually your local lactation consultant, and get their phone numbers and have them saved in your phone, and just ring. Just do it. Like, they're expecting it. That's why they give their numbers. And yeah, it's it can make a huge difference if you make that phone call. So just seek that support early on. It's also really important to know that you're eligible to have an appointment with the lactation consultant of your maternity hospital for free up until 6 weeks, up until your baby is 6 weeks old. And sometimes if you have a lot of issues and you ring and they're a little bit older than 6 weeks, they might accommodate you as well. Tip number 3 is to buy and to read The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. This is a publication that is many years old at this point. It's by La Leche League, and it's just like the Bible for breastfeeding, and it's got everything you could think of from birth through all of the different stages, and then any kind of issues, you know, that might come up. It is an amazing book, and I had it by my bed in the early days and was reading and looking at pictures and just getting reassurance. So it's a really, really good book to have if you want to breastfeed or if you're breastfeeding at the moment. My tip number 4 is to know what's normal. Because we live in a formula feeding culture, really, it's hard to know what's normal for a breastfed baby because it's very different to what would be normal for a bottle-fed baby. So you'll find these, you know, I find out what's normal through speaking to other mothers at those breastfeeding meetings and also reading like The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding and things like that. For example, it is normal for, say, day 2, or it could be night 2 or 3, depending on exactly when your milk comes in, can be really hard. Like your baby might want to like feed all night. Day 2 is just to be aware that it could be a really tough day, and also it can be a huge changes in hormones can make you very, very weepy and emotional, and that's normal. So that's really good to know. Other things that's good to know about what's normal for a breastfed baby is the poos, what color it looks like. You know, the first couple of days when the meconium is passing, it's normal for it to be black and sticky. But after that, a healthy breastfed baby's poo is like a mustardy yellow and a bit grainy, kind of like Dijon mustard. But yeah, you'll get used to talking about poo, and it's a really good way to know as well how much is going in, because we can't measure breastfeeding, so you measure it by what's coming out, by the wet and dirty nappies, and to know how many is normal, and you'll get all that information in The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding as well. Also growth spurts, what's normal between 10 days and 3 weeks, there's a growth spurt, again around 6 weeks or so, again around 6 months. So sometimes like, what is going on? You know, why is my baby feeding so much? They're going through a growth spurt. They're building up your supply. They're really, really clever. They know what they're doing. So that's why it's really good to just not watch the clock and let them feed when they're asking for it. Don't wait for them until they're crying, but when they're kind of rooting and nudging around and opening, you know, their mouths and things like that. So yeah, know what's normal, really important. Top tip number 5 is to state in your birth preferences or your birth plan that you intend to breastfeed. That way you'll have it in writing and you will have spoken to your caregivers about it before the birth, but also during the birth you'll take it along with you, and it's really good that it's written down there. So if once whoever's minding you at the time, you know, if there's a change of shift, they'll read it, they'll know breastfeeding, and will know not to offer you formula hopefully or any top-ups or anything like that, because it's really good that they know that. Tip number 6 is about food. So while you're breastfeeding, you need 500 extra calories per day. So when you think about it, you need 200 extra calories per day while you're pregnant, so you need more while you're breastfeeding. You'll be starving. Just to keep the food intake up and to have lots of healthy snacks around and to keep hydrated as well, because when you think about all that your body is doing making the milk, you need to keep hydrated and well fortified also. Tip number 7 is to buy yourself some nice nursing bras and tops. There are plenty of places to choose from. I particularly like Heidi Klum outlet in Kildare Village because it's close to me, and she's loads and loads of options for really nice breastfeeding bras. And then for the tops, nursing tops, you'll find, I think New Look have a really good nursing section and H&M sometimes. You work around it. It's maybe something I might vlog about. Sometimes button down shirts, dresses, wrap around shirts or dresses as well, or tops really work as well. It's just something nice to do as well when you're in that kind of the zone of maybe not feeling so pretty and you want to just pick me up. It's nice to get something for yourself. Tip number 8 is to know your rights, because you are protected by Irish law and in most countries as well to breastfeed wherever you want. Now, I've done a vlog on this already on breastfeeding in public. If you'd like to see it, you can just click up here, because it's really important to know that, and also to know that by breastfeeding in public, you're normalizing it and you don't know who you will influence positively because of it. So breastfeed wherever you like, happily. Tip number 9 is to buy a sling and baby wear and learn to breastfeed in the sling if you can. Now, I didn't do it so much on my first. I guess I was able to just sit down and breastfeed, but on your second or subsequent babies, because you need your hands for your other children and you need you'll be very busy and mightn't have time to sit down and rest as much. Having a sling is a lifesaver. From very, very early on, my son breastfed in the sling, and actually I used to put him into the sling to breastfeed. He'd be nice and snug, he'd be upright because he was quite colicky. It was really nice, it was good for him to be upright. And he breastfed in the sling every day, everywhere. It was while I was walking, while I was shopping, it was a lifesaver. So it's really, just buy a sling, and if you can learn to breastfeed in it, do. My tip number 10 is to be kind to yourself. Motherhood is hard. It's actually hard no matter how we feed our babies. But sometimes if you're breastfeeding and you don't know others around you who are, and it can seem harder at the beginning, but trust me, it gets easier. But at the same time, it's just really good to be kind to yourself and to be aware of your posture as well, because I think that's part of the whole self-care thing. If you practice yoga, to keep doing it little bits, especially the shoulders and arms and upper body, because we end up holding our babies so often and so much, and we're not used to it. After a while they get heavy, and so to be kind and practice self-care, because it's really important for mums to be happy as well as their babies. So that's my top 10 breastfeeding tips for World Breastfeeding Week. I hope you enjoyed them. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.